My dear mother-in-law, yesterday was partly the best and worst day of my life. Having spent time in Bethesda, where Jesus healed a blind man, we moved on to Caesarea Philippi. The area of Caesarea Philippi is about 25 miles northeast of the Sea of Galilee, and don't my feet know it. Unlike Galilee, the area is ruled by Herod's brother Philip. Most of the people here are Gentiles. It was here that Jesus asked us, "Who do people say I am?" John was first to reply. "Some say John the Baptist." John had been Jesus' cousin before he had been put to death by Herod. Like John, Jesus' message is often uncompromising. He challenges people and makes you look at your life in a new way. Yet Jesus is more than John. John's words that after me comes the one more powerful than I, the throngs of whose sandals I'm not worthy to untie, came back to me. Bartholomew called out Elijah, one of the other prophets. Elijah was willing to face up to King Ahab, yet he also spent time alone, just like Jesus does. Elijah, like the other prophets, were used by God to deliver his message. Was Jesus just another mouthpiece? I knew that he wasn't. Then Jesus looked at us, asking, "Who do you say I am?" I felt that I was back in school in the synagogue, sitting at the rabbi's feet while he asked us what we knew. Yet somehow Jesus' question seemed far more important than any I'd been asked before, as though something hinged on what we would say. I looked around where we were. I'd heard tales of Caesarea Philippi and could see for myself. I shivered as any self-respecting Jew would, to see the remains of many ancient temples scattered around. Not only that, I'd been told that the great hill that rose above us was a cave supposed to be the birthplace of the Greek god Pan. And further up still was a cave which was the source of the Jordan River, a river that as a Jew meant so much to our history. As my eyes wandered around the plain again, I could see in the distance the sun bouncing off the great white marble temple that Herod the Great had built for the worship of the Roman emperor. It made me want to spit. The idea of Caesar as God. As I looked around, I realized that somehow this place had a religious meaning for so many people. Was it why Jesus had brought us here and asked us that question? Something welled up inside me and I found myself answering, "You are the Messiah." Here was God's anointed one, someone much more powerful than John the Baptist or any previous prophet, someone who would crush the ancient gods and take on the might of Rome. Here was someone who was going to make the Jewish people great again. Jesus smiled his approval at me and told me that it was God who had revealed it to me. I felt on top of the world. At last I understood what Jesus had come for. Me and the other disciples were to be beside him, to help him lead the revolution, and I was to be his right-hand man. I could have burst with pride. But that was my downfall. For Jesus started speaking to us in a very different way. He talked about persecution and suffering, that he would have to die. This wasn't the talk of a great leader. He seemed to be talking of a defeat before we'd even had the battle. I couldn't have that. He would demoralize everyone. So I took him aside and told him he was wrong. He was going to win, that with God on his side, victory was inevitable, and we would purge the Romans and other Gentiles from this land. But Jesus turned on me, saying, "Get behind me, Satan. You do not have the concerns of God, but mere human concerns." I felt bewildered. A few minutes ago, I was Jesus' chosen one, and now I felt a mere nothing. What had I got so badly wrong? Surely death cannot be a victory. I felt confused and humiliated. Yet Jesus turned once more and looked at me, and I saw the compassion and love in his eyes. Somehow I had misunderstood, but he still needed me. Jesus began to teach some more. Those who wanted to follow him needed to deny themselves and take up their cross. That in order to have life, they would need to lose it. I gradually began to understand. Following Jesus would not be an easy option, don't I know it? But to have real life, we needed to leave our old life, our old thinking, our old understanding behind us. Jesus was offering a different type of life, a new way of thinking. God's kingdom was not like this one on earth, and therefore as God's Messiah, he was not going to be the type of Messiah I'd thought of. So, my dear mother-in-law, if Jesus asked you, who do you think I am? What would you say? It's a question each of us have got to answer for ourselves. It would be easy to look at Jesus as a good man who taught important truths about being nice to others, who healed people and generally made the world a better place to live in. But the idea of gentle Jesus, meek and mild, is, I know, nonsense. For already I know Jesus as a man who can upset others, who challenges religious viewpoints, who condemns the hypocrisy of the Pharisees to their face, who treats tax collectors and other sinners with respect and generosity, and speaks to women as equals. So who do I think he is? Yes, he is the Messiah, God's chosen one. But I need to learn what that means. I don't think he'll be leading an army with me as general. But I'm not sure I've understood yet what is going to happen and what losing my life for him will result in. But I know what it is I have to do, and do so willingly. Must go now. Jesus is saying something about taking James, John, and I mountaineering. Another long walk. Lots of love, Peter.